was working super hard on a makeup tutorial show. She was teaching smoky eyes to folks out there who really wanted to know when some freaky deaky science stuff only understood by nerds zapped her into old radio shows, the kind you might never have heard. Now she should probably be trying to get out, but Madison, she's having fun, living an old-time radio life. Our explanation is done.
Madison is on the air.
The New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Here we are once again, outside the door of Dr. Watson.
Ah, good evening, Mr. Bartell.
Good evening, Dr. Watson.
Frightful weather we're having out there, eh?
Yes, but it's worth traversing to hear another one of your exciting Sherlock Holmes adventures.
Actually, my boy, I've been called out of town rather suddenly on an urgent matter.
Oh? I hope everything's all right.
Oh, yes. Nothing tragic to speak of. But unfortunately, you've come upon me just as I was departing, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
But fear not, my good man. I shan't let your audience down.
You have time for a quick story for us?
No, but I have procured a surrogate for myself.
A surrogate?
Sup?
Madison!
I'd recalled how well the two of you got on together. Darling girl, eh?
Darling.
Yes, well, she stepped up to care for my dogs on frightfully short notice, you know.
The dogs?
Oh, yes, can't travel with them where I'm going.
Well, since this is clearly an inconvenient time for you, Doctor, we can postpone until next week.
No, I shan't hear of it. Madison has her own Sherlock Holmes adventure to tell. Don't you, my dear lady?
You are gonna love it. Come on in.
I leave you in capable hands. Good night, Mr. Bartell. Miss Standish.
Later.
Where are the dogs?
Sleeping on the bed in the master bedroom. You want to say hello?
Oh, no. Let sleeping dogs lie, as they say.
That's just an old wives' tale, like stepping on a crack, opening an umbrella in the house, crossing the middle lane and driving into oncoming traffic.
Just the same, why don't we get to the Sherlock Holmes adventure you're going to tell us?
First, I have to set the scene. Here.
A golf club?
Yep. Guess where Sherlock and I went?
To a golf course?
Oh, that'd be tons of fun. A haunted golf course. Every time you hit the ball, you end up in a sand trap. Damn the cursed links! No, I'll never make par.
Haunted?
Yeah! The story is called The Adventure of the Haunted Bagpipes. Scotland! Hello! They invented golf.
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay, here's the ball. Go ahead, take a swing.
In Dr. Watson's living room?
Would you rather go outside and play in the rain?
This is a driver. Usually people practice putting indoors.
I don't need practice putting. Seems like every first date I had in middle school was to play mini golf. Dating was so much better once I got my fake ID and started dating college guys.
Perhaps you can just tell me the story and we can forego the golf?
Fine, give me the club. Okay, the setting was Edinburgh, and it involved Professor Moriarty.
Professor Moriarty? You went up against Professor Moriarty?
If you're not going to hit the ball, could you at least hold the tee?
Hold the tee?
It's not like I could push the tee into the floorboards. Just kneel down and hold it.
Instead, why don't you just tell the story?
When are you going to figure out that the sooner you do what I want, the faster I get through the story?
Very well.
Perfect. Hold it just like that. Okay, so as Sherlock and I took the train from London to Edinburgh, the weather took a drastic turn, setting the stage for what was to come. Stop moving!
You're coming very close to my face with that club.
Then stop moving!
It seems that as you're telling the story, you're not quite focused on the ball?
I drive and watch TikTok videos. It's called multitasking, and my generation is expert level. Now hold still. It was a late winter afternoon, and the cold rain was beating down on us as we stepped from the railway station onto the streets of Edinburgh. 4! Damn it! Hooked it into the master bedroom.
The dogs!
You probably shouldn't be on the floor like that. When you're down at their level, they see it as a threat.
Nice doggies!
Anyway, that's when I caught my first glimpse of Edinburgh Castle.
There it is, Madison, in all its austere majesty, Edinburgh Castle.
I'm always surprised at how absolutely underwhelming real castles are. Disneyland does it way better.
The castle is as grim as its history. It's part castle, part fortress, and part prison.
So is Sleeping Beauty's castle, if they find you trying to climb out of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride to get a selfie with robot Johnny Depp.
But Edinburgh Castle is centuries old. Wars have been plotted there. Dancing has lasted deep into the night.
Are you seriously giving me a history lesson while we're standing in the pouring rain?
Rain, Madison? You're getting soft. This isn't rain. It's just a good Scotch mist.
If I was drunk on scotch, it might feel like a mist. Speaking of which, where's our hotel? Aren't they usually over a pub?
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but this is not a pleasure trip. We must forego the luxuries of Princess Street and take up our lodging quarters in Old Town.
Old Town, New Town, as long as I could get me a wee nip.
That's the spirit. Here, get into this cab before you catch a pneumonia.
Where are you off to?
Cabby, let us out in front of St. Giles.
Aye.
We seem to be driving away from civilization?
We're going to stay in one of those grey stone houses all huddled together on the slope leading up to the castle.
Great. It looks like medieval Detroit.
Those tenements were once great homes that housed the flower of Scottish nobility.
Yeah, and Detroit used to produce great music.
What more suitable dwelling place could you imagine for our friend, Professor Moriarty?
Moriarty? Seriously?
Quite.
Dude, fourth time out together and we score Moriarty! Awesomeness!
I'm not sure that's something to celebrate.
Oh, I know. He always beats you at, like, everything.
That's not entirely true. I'd say we've mostly ended in stalemates.
Is he behind bars? Then he won.
I confess I was in complete ignorance until the day before yesterday when I received a telegram informing me that one of Moriarty's chief assistants had been seen prowling through the graves of Greyfriars.
Grave robbing? Digging up a grave is not as easy as it sounds. We're talking 6 feet of dirt. But Aunt Carol promised me that turquoise ring, so I was not gonna let it get buried on her dead finger.
I can't speak to that, but I do know that Professor Moriarty is a particular reason for hating Edinburgh, and he's not a man to forget his grudges. The question is, shall we be in time to prevent his revenge?
I wish someone had been in time to prevent me from digging up the wrong grave. I still got a nice watch from Uncle Harry, though.
Whoa! Here you be, St. Giles.
We're staying here? Well, I've stayed in worse hotels. Or should I say, I've woken up in worse hotels.
This isn't a hotel, Madison. It's St. Giles Cathedral.
I've woken up in worse cathedrals.
We must go from here by foot, I'm afraid.
By foot? Like walking?
Some exercise will do you good after that long train ride.
But it's still raining, and the gutters are full of muddy water. And I'm gonna whine like this the whole way.
Your voice be akin to a novice piper.
That's crazy. He almost sounds like he's speaking English.
I say, cabby, where is Hangman's Lane from here?
Nosh, you no be going there.
There it is again. Did you hear it?
Why not go to Hangman's Lane? It's where we hope to spend the night.
'Tis an unchancy spot. You never find me going up Hangman's Lane after dark.
I think he's trying to warn us about something.
Aye, and I'll not stand here arguing with you. It's the first land back of the kirk, if you must go.
Thanks. Here you are. Drink to our health.
Where you stand, hale and hearty, with a black shadow of death a-looking over your shoulder.
Okay, that time I heard Black Shadow of Death. What is he saying?
Dunna say I didn't warn you. Come along, Beatrice.
Wait, don't leave! Whoa, Beatrice! Come on, Sherlock, let's go back. If the Black Shadow of Death is gonna hang over me, let it do it in a 5-star hotel with a minibar.
We already have lodgings arranged here on Hangman's Lane.
Hangman's Lane? What, were all the rooms booked on Murder Row?
Come along, Madison. They're expecting us.
Who Who's expecting us? The executioner?
The owner of most of the tenements on Hangman's Lane has arranged that we should be taken care of. He's most anxious to have us inspect his property.
Inspecting property? I thought you said this had to do with Professor Moriarty. Is he like Al Capone, where he's done all these horrible crimes, but we'll catch him on, like, zoning violations?
Whenever anything curious and inexplicable happens in the professor's neighborhood, the chances are he's mixed up in it. Ah, here's Hangman's Lane. Pathway's a bit narrow and steep. Watch your step.
This is creepy. How come there's no lights on in any of these buildings? Don't tenements usually have, like, 10 people living in a one-bedroom? Or am I thinking of off-campus housing?
These tenements are deserted, Madison. That's the most interesting part of it.
If that's the most interesting part, this adventure is going to rank up there with Sherlock Holmes and the tax audit.
I'm getting to the interesting part. One particular house hasn't been open for several hundred years, but during the last month, the rest of the tenements have been vacated too. Their inhabitants have fled from them like rats from a sinking ship. The rents have been lowered to the vanishing point, but still, there are no takers. The people hereabouts seem to think the whole street is haunted.
Ooh! Are we doing the whole, if you could stay the entire night in a haunted castle, you get to keep it?
We are not being gifted the property, no, but the phenomenon we're going to investigate occurs only at night.
Old-timey ghost hunters! Can I be the scientific skeptical one who doubts everything? That was just the wind.
I think you should leave the logical deduction to me.
The dude who wrote you believed in fairies.
Ah, here's the house where we're staying. There should be a bell somewhere. Ah, yes.
Who lives in a haunted house? Is it a crazy old witch who lures unsuspecting travelers to their deaths and then cooks them in her stew?
Who be you?
I am Mr. Holmes.
And I am leaving.
What happened to your being the logic-minded one?
Oh, Mr. Holmes, is it? Oh, Lordy, thank you. I be Mrs. Graham. Please to enter.
Oh, go ahead, Madison. Scientists first.
If you'll kindly step this way.
Don't give me a hard time, Sherlock. All you had for horror in your time was Dracula and Frankenstein. I got 9 Nightmare on Elm Streets, 12 Friday the 13th, and 13 Halloweens. And 12 Fast and the Furious, which really just proves Hollywood has no original ideas.
Come this way. There's a proud blaze a-burning, and candles are lit in the back parlour.
Madison, follow Mrs. Graham.
Who's Mrs. Graham?
The woman who just introduced herself as Mrs. Graham and let us in the door?
You mean you understand her? I've never been good at picking up other languages. 10 years with a Spanish-speaking nanny, and all I remember is her tamales. They were good.
Madison, get going.
It's so dark. I can't see anything in here.
My word, Madison, you knocked the poor woman off her feet. Let me assist you, Mrs. Graham.
You know, this corridor is not as smooth as once it was.
You might want to put in some safety rails and that yellow and black tape on the ground. It totally ruins the aesthetic of historic places, but you won't get sued by tourists.
This is the place. Please enter.
Oh, this is so sweet! That fireplace is big enough to roast a pig! Or small child? Sherlock?
She is not a witch. This is a very fine room, Mrs. Graham.
Aye, for once the blood bit this old house. Full of lords and their ladies, they say. But here, will you be standing in front of the fire and drying out your brogues?
Not a bad idea. We are pretty wet here, Madison.
Not a word.
There's a brandy on the shelf if you be wanting a wee drop, yeah?
Brandy?
That you understood.
Aye, and a taste of cock-a-leaky pie in the pot. Now, if you'll forgive me, I'm gonna shunt myself away.
Leaving so soon, but we've just arrived. Madison, put that down.
She said I could have a wee drop. I want a wee drop.
Oh no, Mr. Holmes, I dare not stay after sundown. I'm loath to let you alone, but I dare not stay. I'll return in the morning, early.
But what is there to be afraid of?
The neighbours.
Neighbours?
Oh man, bad neighbors could totally ruin where you live. Or at least that's what I was told when the landlord served me that eviction notice.
Aye, the neighbours in the old Hurley house t'other side of the swall.
But no one has lived in that house next door for years.
Not humans, no. No living man has crossed the doorstead this 100 year.
Did she say no living man? I'm seriously asking because I cannot understand her.
Aye, but there be others. Bogles. You can hear the rattling of their going and coming every night through the wall.
Bogles?
Ghosts. Have you ever heard of them, Mrs. Graham?
No, I certainly have not. I will not stay here after sundown. But the Bogles, that's not the worst of it.
Really?
Really what?
Aye, at times you can hear the sound of doodling.
Doodling? You have ghosts next door who draw pictures? When they get really scary, do they do origami?
By doodling, she means the sound of bagpipes.
Bagpipes? And I got evicted for letting my boyfriend's band rehearse in my living room?
Aye, that's when they be entertaining old Horny himself.
Horny? Bagpipe sex parties? There's so much I don't know about Scotland.
The devil.
Aye.
Dude, what was that?
Madison, I thought you were going to be the one who says it's just the wind.
Shut up, Sherlock. What was that?
Just the wind in the chimney.
I would have swore 'twere the devil's voice.
Horny for bagpipes!
I'd no be waiting to find out when the sculling begins. The house itself sounds like it be singing a dirge. Good night, and God help you. God help you.
Well, she certainly was frightened, eh?
Okay, everybody knows the stupid people in horror movies are the ones who don't leave when the scary stuff starts going down.
But those two legends, the house next door and their haunted bagpipes, are famous Edinburgh superstitions. I'd like to learn more about them.
I'm sure there's a book in the gift shop. Let's go! Oh, I don't want to be dismembered. I like my members.
That building next door is one of the so-called fatal houses.
Fatal houses? You are not selling me on this.
That's what they called the houses marked generations ago by the Great Plague.
During my plague, we called them megachurches.
You see, discipline in the time of pestilence was sharp and sudden. The houses having the disease were marked by a large cross.
Ours had large crosses and Ford F-150s in the parking lot.
No one dared to enter or leave, and the houses were sealed up. In those houses, of which one or two still remain, the plague is supposed to lie in ambush, ready to escape and spread sickness and death through the city once the doors are reopened.
OMG, viruses can't stay on surfaces like that. Next you'll tell me everyone was Lysoling their groceries.
The other legend is not quite so gruesome.
So we're staying?
Yes, we are staying.
Well, I'm starving. I'm gonna try this whatever the heck she said she made.
The legend is about a secret passage that is supposed to have existed in the time of Mary, Queen of Scots.
What is this?
Cockaliki Pie. The secret passage was between Edinburgh Castle and Holyrood Palace, which lies at the other end of town.
What the heck is cockaliki pie? It's not like haggis, is it?
No, Madison, it's chicken and leek soup.
Because I'm only adventurous with my diet when I've had more than just a wee drop.
As I was saying, about a century and a half ago, a piper made a bet that he could walk the length of the secret passage.
Like, you should have seen the stuff I was trying at that sushi restaurant when I got enough sake in me.
He started at the castle piping merrily.
Have you ever had shirako?
The crowds were able to follow him through the streets above by the sound of the skirling.
It's fish sperm.
Everything was going smoothly.
My friends ordered it and didn't tell me what it was.
Madison, is it at all possible for you to not interrupt me as I tell my story?
I'm just saying, no one likes to swallow sperm without knowing about it ahead of time.
I think I need a wee drop.
I finished the bottle.
So, the piper was playing his bagpipes as he made his way through the secret passage, with the villagers following above. They followed the sound down from the castle along the top of the hill. Then suddenly, the piper stopped in the middle of a note, and that was the last that we ever heard of the piper.
Okay.
The piper had vanished without a trace.
Did the villagers rejoice? I mean, bagpipes have got to start getting on your nerves. I don't care how Scottish you are.
Actually, some say the devil was so captivated by the piper's playing that he carried him off to hell.
The devil went down to Scotland?
Yes, and the people of Edinburgh believed he's come back. They've reported hearing mysterious bagpipes playing for the last month or so.
Why would a ghost come back after 100 years just to annoy everybody with bagpipes?
That is what I'm anxious to find out. Madison, do you hear that? By Jove, then it's more than just a superstition.
OMG, seriously? We mentioned bagpipes and boom, there's bagpipes. That's not a ghost. That's teenagers running a haunted house in a high school gym.
We can't rule out the devil's bagpiper, Madison.
It's just the wind.
The only way to know for certain is to pay a call to, Old Horny himself.
Not me. I got out of that line of work.
Previously on Rogue Life.
Have you ever played one of those video games where every time you die, you start the game over with everything completely changed? Like the enemies, maps, weapons, abilities, everything is different. Well, that's my life. My name is Benjamin Bowers, but you can just call me Benny. I have now died 26 times. I've drowned, I've been strangled, I've eaten bad sushi, I've been crushed by a steamroller, I've been let out of an airlock on a space cruiser, and I have been shot 6 times. You'd think that I'd get discouraged by all this, but nah, I'm just trying to live my best life.
Rogue Life is available now on your podcast app of choice.
Madison, do I have to wave my arms around?
Yeah, but not like that. Go one direction in a circle.
Why am I a windmill again?
You were right. Dr. Watson's living room is no place for a driving range. But who keeps fancy plates in their living room?
Before the 8th hole, that was a china hutch.
So now I'm working on putting.
And I'm a windmill?
Have you ever been to a mini golf course without a windmill? Besides, you're already standing on the sofa. Makes the shot a challenge.
I think my arm movements are upsetting the dogs.
You didn't help yourself any when you kept running around the room while I was trying to tee off.
Because you hit me twice.
Well, it's gonna be 3 if you don't spread your legs further apart so I can putt through the windmill.
Very well.
Okay, so my story. Sherlock insisted that we...
Maybe focus on your shot before you continue.
You're breaking my concentration. So, Sherlock insisted we investigate the house next door, right? I wasn't too thrilled about it, honestly. But we were out of brandy, and there was always a chance they'd have some. 4! Ooh, that's gonna need some ice. The moaning, though, reminds me of the ghost. So, I follow Sherlock out the door.
Come along, Madison. Oh, dear me. The weather's turned to sleet.
Don't walk so fast. That Scottish brandy really packs a punch.
Madison, you forgot your coat.
You obviously have never been clubbing in New York in winter.
Well, we're almost there. Oh, another little bit of a local superstition I forgot to mention. They say that the corpses of people who died here of the plague sometimes come to life and wander about the house.
Good for them.
That doesn't frighten you?
I'm not elitist. If zombies want a night to party, who am I to judge?
Very open-minded of you. Here's a doorway. Now let's find out if the key still works. I only hope the lock isn't too rusty. Won't budge.
Then let's go back.
I'll try the oil can. Madison, don't sit on the cold, wet ground like that. You'll catch your death.
Then I could party with the zombies.
Confound this lock. No sense in trying to break the door. Oh, it's solid as Gibraltar.
Then that door is doing better than the house. Look at this giant crack that starts here at the steps.
Well observed, Madison. The crack goes all the way over the archway up there. Hello. I turned the key and the lock's decided to work. Oh! But the door's sticking. Oh, the hinge is rusty. Come on, Madison, on your feet.
We going back?
Help me with the door. Put your back into it.
It's not moving.
You're not helping. Oh,
But the crack's moving.
hurry! Help me with the door before the archway falls on us.
Oh, good. We're trapped in here forever. Hope the zombies are cool with roommates.
It's quiet. I can't even hear the wind.
Ugh, it stinks. Like a nursing home.
There's something unhealthy, like a disease I smelled once in the tropics.
Nursing homes smell like every disease all at once, with a slight undertone of tapioca.
Better light that dark lantern we brought along.
It's faster to use my phone's flashlight.
My word, Madison, what is that?
Oh, sorry. You Brits call it a torch, which throws me every time I hear it. I instantly think you're carrying fire on a stick.
It's blinding.
I'll give you football for soccer because it is played with your feet. I'll give you lift for elevator because it lifts you. But you gotta lose torch.
Extinguish that at once! If we haven't stirred the devil with our presence, that light will certainly happen upon us in a matter of moments.
Fine, let's strain our eyes with candlelight.
Thank you. Oh, dirty cobwebs. Old tapestry hanging in shreds. Nothing has been moved since the plague first touched the house. Ooh, look there in that room. That old oak table set for a meal.
No chance there's any brandy left on the table?
Would you really entertain drinking brandy found in here?
In a pinch, I've drunk nail polish remover.
We'll have to save the discussion of your drinking habits for another day. Let's go on to the next room.
You want to give me grief about my drinking? Aren't you addicted to opium?
I believe you are referring to my 7% solution of cocaine.
People always talk about how Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it, except the original recipe called for cocaine and red wine. But they're based in Atlanta, right? And when the city went dry, they weren't allowed to put the wine in anymore. But the cocaine? Sure, we don't see anything wrong with that.
Hush a moment, Madison.
Hey, I've been listening to your stories.
You really haven't. But putting an end to your story while a perk is not the reason why I've stopped you.
What?
We've entered a living room. Look over there in the chairs.
Dude, there are people sitting over there.
Indeed. And the smell is stronger in here. Let's get a closer look with the lantern. Ah! Madison, turn off that light.
They're all naked.
Naked corpses, yes.
OMG, that is so disgusting.
Perhaps if you turn off that confounded light source, the picture before you wouldn't appear so grotesque.
No problem. Ugh. I've seen a lot of dead bodies in these old-timey radio shows, but at least they all had clothes. Everybody listening? Be glad this is audio only.
Not corpses. Cadavers.
There's a difference?
Cadavers are used in medical experiments.
Don't touch them!
Why not?
Are you blind? Swollen eyes, froth around the mouth, blackened flesh?
My word, you're right. Symptoms of the Black Plague.
Black Plague? I just thought they looked gross.
But how is that possible?
Meet your zombies.
Victims of the Black Death. All 3 bodies who died in this house centuries ago of the plague. But they're not decayed. This defies logic.
They didn't die centuries ago.
How do you know this?
Look at the woman. She's got bangs.
Bangs? Oh, you mean fringe.
And you Brits call the trunk of a car a boot. Can I please make my point?
Madison, do you hear that?
The corpses can hear that from the afterlife.
The devil appears to be arriving with his piper. And look, Mrs. Graham was right. The house does vibrate with those pipes.
Not that much shaking. It's a 4.0 at best.
Good evening.
Dear me, if it isn't our friend, Professor Moriarty. I had no idea you were a musician.
He's not. He plays bagpipes.
And it looks like you traded in that raggedy old Dr. Watson for a much lovelier assistant.
I'm not his lovely assistant. He's not a magician.
Oh, but I would argue otherwise, dear lady. Only a magician as brilliant as the great Sherlock Holmes could find me here.
Allow me to present Miss Madison Standish.
A pleasure.
Ugh, you got predator vibes all over you.
I'd wondered how long it would take you to find me, Mr. Holmes. Allow me to congratulate you. You're very prompt.
Most flattering, Professor, but I assure you it was simplicity itself. You didn't think I'd overlook anything as obvious as a sealed house and a haunted bagpiper who so conveniently came back to life in the last month?
Yes, I might have known my little ruse to get rid of my superstitious neighbors wouldn't keep Sherlock Holmes away.
Oh my god! You two are stroking each other's egos so hard it's X-rated.
You're right, Miss Standish. We should move on to business.
I presume your business involves the deceased who currently occupy this living room?
Yes. These 3 poor devils. Failed experiments, I'm afraid.
You couldn't put some clothes on them? Maybe cover them with a tarp?
He'd have to consider them human to treat them with dignity.
Oh, is it dignity? Is that where I went wrong? I'll keep that in mind, because it is rather fortuitous you arrived when you did, Mr. Holmes, for now yourself and Miss Standish can help me continue my experiments.
You mean the plague?
I really must try my serum on 2 healthy specimens before I announce it perfect. After all, these 3, an old beggar, a thief dying of starvation, and a woman of ill repute, well, they could hardly be expected to resist the disease.
Ha, Sherlock! I told you these people weren't from centuries ago. I figured it out from her bangs. Beauty historian.
My, Mr. Holmes. Upstaged by a woman?
A conclusion I was moments away from discovering myself when your musical, interlude interrupted my investigation.
You cannot let anyone else have a win, can you, Sherlock? Professor, you are the only one he's ever admitted could outsmart him.
Am I now?
The precise statement I made was that you and I more often than not end in a stalemate.
Well, this time, Mr. Holmes, you and I are simply going to end.
Is that so?
Yes. You see, these victims are recent, but they were killed by germs of the original Black Death. Most amusing, isn't it?
No. You're one of those guys who says something offensive, and then when you realize no one is laughing, you follow it with, "I was only joking."
I am not joking.
Tell me, Professor, how did you discover those ancient germs?
Oh, they were in this house. I found a nice little culture of them in a glass of calf's foot jelly, which was on the table in the front room. How they ever survived.
Time out. Calf's foot jelly? Worst Smucker's flavor ever.
This one does interrupt a lot, doesn't she?
I've come to Miss Watson's insatiable ramblings.
Really? I'm the problem here? Not you two monologuing this scene to death?
I suppose you'd have us reduced to fisticuffs.
Now that would be amusing.
Yeah, please. Watching you 2 old dudes fight would be like watching 2 drunk dads wrestle at a neighborhood barbecue.
Then perhaps I should just inject you with the Black Plague and be done with it.
Oh, is that the alternative?
Come into my laboratory, both of you. I want to show you what I've been working on.
Sherlock, I've already had a plague. I don't want another plague.
Humor him, Madison, humor him.
Humor him? How?
Right. Your humor is nothing more than snide commentary.
Thank you.
Here we are. Quite a nice modern enclave for such an ancient house, eh?
Yes, it is, Professor. Don't you agree, Madison?
Oh, am I supposed to make snide commentary now?
Here. This little test tube. It contains enough of the Black Plague to wipe out the entire city of Edinburgh.
I'd rather thought that was your purpose. You've never forgotten how they drove you out of Edinburgh at the time of the Burke and Hare scandal?
Ooh, scandal.
You know about that.
Quite. Your name wasn't Moriarty then.
What of it?
So bad he had to change his name? Okay, fess up. Who were you sleeping with? Mary Queen of Scots?
Our dear professor here, Madison, was the young assistant to a Dr. Knotts, and together they were carrying on some exciting experiments.
Sex experiments?
What is your preoccupation with sex?
You're the one with naked dead bodies chilling in the living room.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. They were experiments that might have saved the world a great deal of suffering.
But you were short of cadavers. It wasn't you, by any chance, who suggested to Burke and Hare, those 2 body snatchers, that a body did not have to be legally dead to be acceptable?
Well, what of it? They only killed the refuse of the city? Beggars? Scum?
But they met the hangman, nonetheless.
Why'd you go out and kill people? It's 1800 Scotland. Isn't the life expectancy like 30?
The fools. What price the death of a few when we might have discovered a cure that would have saved all of humanity? Oh, humanity. Bah! I hate it. Ever since then, I'd sworn I'd get revenge on the humanity and the law-abiding citizens of Edinburgh in particular. And now the time has come. Tomorrow, the contents of this test tube will spread destruction throughout this city.
I'm feeling you.
Madison!
Well, I don't condone mass murder or anything, but he starts out trying to help humanity and it turns on him? That's a good villain origin story. All I'm saying.
I'm glad you appreciate my motives, Miss Standish. But now, you and Mr. Holmes, you know too much. You shall be the first of the law-abiding citizens to feel the prick of my little needle.
Prick of his little needle? Oh, it's a self-esteem thing. He feels inadequate.
You do fixate on sex, don't you?
Maybe you need to stop fixating on my fixation with sex.
This is a fascinating discussion, truly. Do continue as I prepare my instruments. And I'd recommend neither of you move. One drop of this test tube, even in its present state, is enough to cause death.
We understand.
I mean, the human race procreated through the 1800s. You think it was only men that made that happen?
Madison, hush!
No, women need to have a voice about their own sexuality.
Let the woman talk, Mr. Holmes. I find it amusing when females try to speak at the same level as men.
You want me to get mad at you for saying that, but I know the men who make comments like that are always the ones with little pricks.
Freud would have a lot to say about you, my dear.
He wouldn't be the first.
Say, Professor, while you're preparing your solution, if you have no objections, I would like to play a tune on your bagpipes. I used to be rather good at them in my younger days.
Just what I want in my last moments on Earth. Bagpipes.
Oh, go right ahead if it will amuse you.
Quite.
Oh, man. Can you hurry up with that Black Death?
Madison, stand here beside me against this wall.
But...
Don't argue.
Sherlock, the house is vibrating. It's getting close to a 6-pointer.
Yes, I believe this is the note that does it.
Hold on there. You're shaking the house. The foundation is cracking.
The house would rather implode on itself than listen to those stupid bagpipes.
Look out, man. You'll bring the house down. Stop it at once.
Back off, Professor.
Ah, the light. It's blinding.
Need my iPhone torch.
The walls. I've got to get out of here.
Can't go that way. Front door's blocked.
There's a secret passage in the basement. If I can reach it in time.
Sherlock! He dropped the test tube! The goo is spreading across the floor!
Madison, step back into the fireplace! Hurry!
I'm not supposed to die in Scotland! I'm supposed to die of mysterious circumstances on a billionaire's yacht! And so Sherlock played that note on the bagpipes until the house came crashing down. Hey! You still listening in there? Shut up, dogs! That was just me knocking! Gross! Dog breath! Go in the other room! Go on! Go! You still there?
Yes.
How long are you gonna stay in that bathroom?
Occupied.
I know! It's occupied! You've been in there for half an hour!
Busy!
Aren't you at all curious how the story ended?
Were you killed?
No.
Then no thank you. I like happy endings.
Just for that, I'm going to tell you anyway. Sherlock had figured out from the crack above the front door that the house was weak and guessed which way it would fall if it caved in. So the wall that we were standing next to and the fireplace were the only things left standing. Did you hear me? Shut up, dogs! So what'd you think?
That's a nice story.
Don't you want to know what happened to Moriarty?
Not particularly.
He got away through a secret passage in the basement.
Okay, then.
Not a follow-up question about the dead bodies in the living room? And the plague?
Nope.
Well, Sherlock was afraid people might start digging through the rubble, so he poured the lantern oil over everything and started a fire. Boy, did that thing go up, even in the rain.
All right. Good night now.
Come on. You're not going to sleep on the floor in the bathroom. Are you? Crying?
I'm fine.
Aw, come on. I didn't tease you that much. Please open the door.
No!
I'll lock the dogs in the bedroom. Hang on. Okay, dogs are locked up. Come on out.
No more golf?
No more golf. I'm pretty sure I broke everything of value already.
Okay.
Oh, I am sorry, Miss Standish. I imagine the water in that pitcher is frightfully cold, but it seems rather fitting end for your Scotland story, don't you think? Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Good night.
Well played, sponsor dude. Well played. Basil Rathbone embodied the Sherlock Holmes we know from the 30s and 40s, but by 1946, he decided to leave the radio series despite the sponsor offering him everything they could to stay. But after 12 films and 220 radio episodes, Rathbone was afraid of being typecast in the iconic role. Too late. The series continued with British actor Tom Conway as Sherlock, with Nigel Bruce remaining on as Watson, now receiving top billing. But even their sponsor, Petri Wine, left the series at Rathbone's departure. And unfortunately, fans took an immediate dislike to Conway in the role, despite his strong performances, and he left after 39 episodes. The series continued until 1950, with various actors stepping in as Sherlock. Our episode, The Adventure of the Haunted Bagpipes, was from the Conway season. Hey everybody, it's Madison. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed my 4th adventure with Sherlock Holmes. If you want to catch any of the others, they are episodes 7, 19, and 31. And hey, while I got you, can I ask you to do me a favor? Could you give us 5 stars? Leave a nice review maybe? Or share us out on your favorite socials? I want to get the word out that women are funny. Thank you. You guys are so amazing. Okay, announcer dude, read the credits.
Madison on the Air was written and produced by Chrissy Talon Sage with music composition and audio engineering by Jeremy Sage. The role of Madison Standish was played by Chrissy Talon Sage. Albert Garnica appeared as Sherlock Holmes. Other actors in the cast were Kareem Cronfley as Professor Moriarty, Sarah Golding as Mrs. Graham, Bran Peacock as Dr. Watson, Jeremy Sage as the cabbie, and David Pinion appeared as the sponsor, Mr. Bartell.